Welcome back. I am here with a new lesson. It's from Unit 3 of Standard 10 textbook. The Best Investment I Ever Made. Written by A.J. Cronin. A.J. Cronin is a Scottish writer and novelist. Actually, he was Dr. A.J. Cronin, who was a physician too. His best known novel is The Citadel. Talks about his career, his profession. His novella Country Doctor was adapted for a long-running BBC radio and TV series. So he is well known and he occurs in most of the textbooks in almost all classes. The best investment I ever made is an anecdote by A.J. Cronin talking about one of his experiences while he was working as a physician. It describes an interesting episode in the life of the writer. It highlights the fact that the word investment gives different ideas to different people. In this story, the best investment and the gain of the investment are priceless. It is about investing some money not for gaining profit, but for a better aim. This story gives us a beautiful lesson of humanity. We'll go through the story. A.J. Cronin was on a ship voyage. He decided to relax as he was tired. It was the second day of his voyage. Suddenly, he became aware of one of the passengers who was watching him closely. As he was not interested in making importunate shipboard contacts, not much better contacts while traveling on shipboard contacts. He gave no sign of having noticed the man. The man was in his early 40s, rather short in build, with a fair complexion. That was how that man appeared. He appeared to be affected by a worried and emotional diffidence to approach Dr. Cronin. There was some kind of reluctancy from his part to go near Cronin. On the next afternoon, Cronin observed that the man was seriously watching him, and this time his wife was also with him. Cronin realized that they were Mr. and Mrs. John S. from a small suburb of London. He collected these details from a steward, a waiter in the ship. On the final day of their voyage, urged by his wife, Mr. John came near Dr. Cronin with utmost diffidence. He introduced himself by offering him his visiting card. He gave his visiting card in order to make Cronin remember him. He said that he and his wife had been active in the field of youth welfare for the past 15 years. They took derelict adolescents from the juvenile courts, healed them in mind and body, gave them training in handicrafts, and sent them back to the world as worthy members of the community. So that was what they did. Mr. John felt disappointed because Cronin could not recognize him from his visiting card. Finally, Mr. John reminded him about an incident. This parted the wheels. The picture became very clear. Cronin's thoughts sped back a quarter of a century. Cronin's thoughts sped back to almost a quarter of a century, 25 years back. So something that happened 25 years back. That's the flashback of the story. Cronin was practicing in a working class district in London when one night a sergeant or a police officer came to him and asked him to attend a suicide case in the lodgings nearby. In the attic of the building, they found a young man lying lifeless. After long hours of tiring effort, the trios are trio means three people, Dr. Cronin, sergeant, and the landlady of the lodge, managed to bring him back to life. They struggled a lot to bring him back to life. As he regained his strength, the young man told them his story. He was an orphan and he was brought to London town by his uncle who found him a job there. Reaching London as an orphan, no one to be cared, he suddenly fall victim to a bad company in the town. And he started running after pleasures beyond his means. In order to get more money, he started gambling and even stole money from his office safe. Having lost everything and sick at heart, he sunk in despair and tried to commit suicide. Because of his bad habit, he wanted money. He tried to make money, get money from whatever sources he had. He pledged almost all his belongings. And at last he stole the money from the office safe, which prompted him to commit suicide. Actually, hearing this pathetic story, the three people, the trio, decided to help him. First of all, the sergeant, risking his job, resolved not to report upon the case. If he report the case, then it would become a case. The landlady offered a month's free boarding until he get cured, and Dr. Cronin gave him £7 and 10 shillings, that the amount that he has taken from the office safe, to be recouped, to be replaced in the office safe. though it did not bring any worldly gain personally to Cronin. See, even though Cronin gave that money, it did not give him any returns. He did not get anything in return. What we can say is that, or what Cronin says, that it was the best investment, and the gain from that investment is priceless. The gain from that investment is priceless. That's what Cronin says. So that's the story. A flashback story of about 25 years. We'll now see the events in the story. The narrator sees a passenger in a promenade deck. He notices a man with his wife the next day. She compels her husband to talk to the doctor. John gives him or offers him his visiting card. The narrator realizes John's field work as a youth welfare person. They help adolescents and bring them back to good life. Doctor recalls past incidents at the landlady's attic. Young John falls into bad company in the London town. He loses all his money in gambling. He pleads all his belongings. He pledges all his belongings and borrows money from all sources. He steals money from office safe. Unable to replace the money, he attempts suicide. He was saved by the doctor, landlady, and sergeant. He gets a fresh start in his life. The sergeant agrees not to register the case. The doctor gives him £7 and 10 shillings to recoup the money. The doctor feels proud of his investment and thinks it as the best investment. This is a question on textual passages. You have to read this passage and answer the questions given in the next part. Who were the passengers Cronin observed on the deck? How did Cronin come to know that it was Mr. and Mrs. John? So such questions are given. Towards the end, you'll see the fourth question is a vocabulary based question, and the fifth one is to frame a sentence as the sentence given there. So when Cronin reached the deck, Mrs. and Mr. John had arrived there. See, two things we have to take into consideration. The first part, we have a word when. When Cronin reached the deck, at that time, Mrs. and Mr. John had arrived there. You have to use it in the past perfect tense. When I reached the railway station, the train had left. An example. When I reached the school, the class had begun. So when you use past perfect, you have to use the P3 form of the verb also. Similar question, another question is given here. You can read that part, pause the video and read that part, and then move on to the questions. Some questions are given here. Look at the question number F. A conversation between the author and the man is given, and two questions are given below that. Author, what's your problem? Man, I do not have any money with me. What did the author ask the man? So the answer will be, the author asked asked the man what his problem was. What his problem was. The man replied. What did the man reply is the question. The man replied that he did not have any money with him. He did not have any money with him. So this is the way in which you have to answer these types of questions. Now we move on to the Malayalam version of the story, The Best Investment I Ever Made. What you have to do is, I will not be reading this story, so you have to read the story by yourself. This is meant for those students who are slow learners. There are slow learners in my school. There may be slow learners in some other schools also. This is only meant for such children in order to get the idea of the story. You can pause the video and read and move on to the next part. Pause the video, read it and move on to the next part. So you can pause the video, read and move to the next part. You may watch the video once again and note down the points which will be helpful for you to attempt the examination. Thank you.